It's a beast incarnate.
Let's go. GameNChick Gaming.
Hello once again, my chickadees. GameNChick is back once again with another review. This time as an official part of the 2K Nextmakers program. Super awesome. Before we get started, I'd like to give a big thank you to the kind folks over at 2K for providing me with a review copy to make this review possible. Thank you very much. So now with that having been said, let's go! WWE 2K22 is a wrestling simulation game that is developed by Visual Concepts and published by 2K Games. After the blistering response to WWE 2K20 that left fans wondering just what the heck went wrong, Visual Concepts returns now, 2 years later, to hopefully gain the confidence of the wrestling community back. But did they succeed in their efforts, or will they scream to the moon and tell us, "It wasn't my fault," just like Gene Snitsky? Only one way to find out, so
It's time to play the game.
Gameplay. I've played a lot of wrestling games over the years that range from WrestleMania on NES, WWE SmackDown and Here Comes the Pain, WWE 2K series, and even my favorite titles on Nintendo 64 with WCW versus NWO Revenge and WWF No Mercy. But up until recent years, they haven't been feeling as polished and clean as they once were. Even with the recent arcade-style wrestling games like WWE 2K Battlegrounds, they were all still missing that special something that connected with me the way the older wrestling games used to. After the headache-inducing and bug-riddled release of 2K20, I had lost quite a bit of faith that we'd ever get a game that could satisfy me.
You didn't say that. Tell me you did not just say that.
Yes, I said that. They were all missing features or the extra oomph that would give them an edge. After that less than flattering response to 2K20 as a whole, 2K and Visual Concepts went back to the drawing board, delaying its yearly release, and instead they gave 2K22 a nearly 2-year development cycle, give or take. But was that enough? Yes and no. I guess it's story time with GameNChick, baby! So first off, to get it out there right away, is 2K22 as broken as the previous entry of 2K20? Not even close. That game was riddled and bugged to heck. However, here, it feels far more polished and stress-tested. This, in my opinion, feels in large part due to the longer development time than the usual yearly release as I previously stated, so that more thought and care could be added. Much like Ubisoft learned with Assassin's Creed and all the problems that came with that being a yearly franchise, it seems 2K has learned the same and opted to take the slower and methodical approach, which overall seems to have paid off. Well, to an extent. Graphically, it looks way better than the previous entry, but not vastly. There's some textures and models that look like they may not have gotten the same amount of polish as others, but overall, it's a step in the right direction as far as the engine and graphics go. On the bad side, Flair looks a little funky. For being the nature boy, it kind of looked like nature in general had a grudge with him as he hit every branch falling out of the ugly tree. But on the good side, look at characters like The Rock. In 2K20, it looked like you got his discount twin from the dollar store compared to what we get in 2K22. It's not even a contest. He looks great, vast improvement. Most characters also follow suit with looking great and detailed as well. But graphics wasn't the only improvement. Gameplay, feel, and sound design have also improved. In this entry of WWE 2K22, the sound design is actually really competent. This is in relation to the sounds of the arenas, the crowds, objects you wield. Everything feels authentic, and the crowd noise actually adds quite a bit to the ambiance of each match, something that I feel was lacking in the last few entries.
As our WWE superstars are jockeying for position, going into the upcoming pay-per-view event, we welcome you tonight to Monday Night Raw.
Yes, this even includes color commentary from the announcers. Now we have nearly one-to-one gameplay commentary with Help Michael Cole calling a suplex, a clothesline.
Vintage Michael Cole.
Unprepared. Just goes to show you gotta be on your toes. He's seeing red. Hopefully this little tantrum will get all this out of their system. You just can't act this way every time you lose.
The roster this go-around has also never been bigger or better. Even though WWE went through a plethora of roster cuts in recent months, some making no sense at all and others leaving you thinking, wait, who is that? Depending on what version of the game you acquired, which in my case I was provided with the NWO edition, you will have access to anywhere up to 160 wrestlers at your disposal to play as, ranging from John Cena, Stone Cold, Hulk Hogan, Goldberg, Roman Reigns, David Arquette, Jimmy King, and Triple H. Huh? What's that? Something is wrong with my list? I don't see what could be wrong with it. Looks fine to me. Oh well. So, okay, we know about the graphics, how many playable characters, sound improvements, character model improvement. That's fine and all. But what about the game itself? How does it hold up? Well, when it comes to the gameplay department, you'll notice this title is both a departure from past games in regards to the overly confusing control scheme, where it feels like a typical ending to WCW where the entire ring was flooded with wrestlers and you don't have a damn clue of what the heck is going on because there's so much happening at once. That was sort of like the old control scheme for WWE 2K20 and previous entries. Kind of. Basically, in a nutshell, I'm saying it was overly complicated for the sake of being complicated, rather than feeling easy to get into and user-friendly like it does here in 2K22. To be honest, it's kind of a blessing 2K20 ended up being broken and jumbled, otherwise we wouldn't have gotten this updated title that improves some past failures by a large margin. To think it only took 2 years to get to this point. But I count my blessings, and I'm just glad it didn't take as long to improve as Glacier took to come into WCW, or the modern-day equivalent of Veer coming to Raw. Someone needs to put him on the back of a milk carton. Dude's been missing for months. But in fairness, as long as he doesn't show up and pull a Shockmaster, all will be forgiven. But I know, I promised gameplay, I swear we're getting into it. The first detail in gameplay I want to touch upon is one of the more fitting features added into this title with this entry, and it relates to the changes to the game's presentation and cinematic feel. If you've ever watched an episode of Raw or SmackDown, or even attended a live event, you will get an idea of what I'm talking about. In past games, you felt more like a character inside a game, rather than as the character you're playing as yourself. You felt like you were just watching the action and not being a part of it in general, with it feeling a tad bit disjointed if that makes any sense to others, but it's how I felt. But here in 2K22, with the camera zoomed in more towards the ring, giving almost like a ringside view to it, you get closer to the action than ever before, and like I stated earlier, with the higher production value of the graphics, along with the better sound design for objects in the crowd, it amplifies the experience of each match that much more, which gives you an even more authentic WWE feel, and to me, just like Carlito would say, "Now that is cool!" Another section of the gameplay that has had a slight overhaul relates to the way you fight. By this I mean grappling, reversing, countering, and a combo system. Much like everything else here in 2K22, wrestling overall has been far more streamlined this time around in regards to the combo system, where you can put together strikes, grapples, reversals, and other moves in your arsenal at a much simpler and fluid pace. All moves are now easier to pull off in 2K's latest entry, more so than it was for The Rock to throw Shawn Stasiak out of the ring over and over on SmackDown. For PlayStation players, your basic attacks start with using square for light attacks, X for heavy attacks, and circle for grabbing and grappling. Now, you can just spam your kicks and punches and give people an old Stone Cold Steve Austin mudhole stomping, but I wouldn't recommend it, because it will open up more of a chance of you getting countered by your opponent, and when this happens, you're either going to take one of their finishers, should they have one ready, or get into a round of back and forth reversal wars, if the AI-controlled computer manages to guess your next move and vice versa you to them. When getting into a reversal war, it's imperative to know that only the first move thrown by you or your opponent is able to be countered or is blockable. This can turn into a game of hot potato or Simon Says, because when in a reversal war, you will have to guess which set of combos your attacker is going to use next in a highly contested game of rock, paper, scissors, based off of which attack they do, such as square, X, etc. Should you fail at guessing, obviously you're gonna get hit, you big dum-dum. But if you guess correctly, you will show them who the real beast incarnate is, and beat them so bad that it'll make an NWO beating look tame, brother! Your other avenue of attacks, in addition to your light, heavy, grappling, and reversals, are your special moves. With these being using payback with R2, plus triangle to hook up and make a Hulk Hogan-like comeback when you get into trouble, R2 plus square to perform your character's signature move, and R2 plus X for your wrestler's finishing move. An example of these being the 619 and springboard leg drop if you're someone like Rey Mysterio. However, just like in previous entries, and even wrestling games dating back a decade, not all of your special R2 moves are usable just whenever you feel like it. And yes, once again, all of them having specific requirements and area placements for them to be activated, such as ring-only moves and ring-side-only moves. While all these moves do feel pretty good most of the time with a large portion of the wrestlers in this game, it does however feel a bit clunky at times with hit detection or animations and combos not always feeling as refined as others. I feel like this comes down to the fact that you have over 160 wrestlers to program, create movesets and animations for, and something has got to give, really. It's sort of a bummer overall, as it can ruin some of the momentum of fun the game has going for it at certain times. But hey, that's the breaks, boy! Yeah, that's the breaks, little man! Break it down! Oops, my bad, got a little carried away there. So controls and basic gameplay aside, what are the modes in this entry? Did they skimp out? No way. That couldn't be further from the truth. Here in 2K22, you have Showcase Mode, which features Rey Mysterio and allows you to go through some of his most classic matches from WCW and WWE, with matches that include his Mask vs. Champion bout at Halloween Havoc versus Eddie Guerrero, his epic clash with the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels from Raw, his great match against The Undertaker at the Royal Rumble, and many more. This is really awesome because before each match you play, you get a video recap of it and what Rey's mindset was at the time of the match going into it. It's cool hearing his perspective. Then it immediately drops you into that match seamlessly. Other modes consist of GM mode that lets you become GM of any WWE brand and see just how far you can take it by drafting superstars, acting within your budget, and create the best shows that you can. It's a good thing they didn't have the Shark and Yeti from WCW. Otherwise, I would have blown my budget on just them alone. Well, maybe I'll split some money between Taskmaster, Gilbert, and the Mean Street Posse if they were in this. But alas, it was not meant to be. Moving on to some of the remaining modes like My Faction, that allows you to create your own powerhouse faction and put them through a series of matches all across WWE eras and fight in 4 versus 4 faction matches. I'm not a fan, but we'll get into that in a bit. Strolling further along, we have My Rise mode, which this year adds both a male and female paths. And this is where you take your aspiring superstar and aim to make it to the main WWE roster by proving yourself from the Performance Center and all the way to the top of the roster until you conquer the wrestling world. And strangely enough, holy crap, it's not actually doo-doo butter this time. Which is great. No need to rage out from the letdown of 2K20 and have a brew bloodbath. Rest easy, it's actually fun this time around, with better voice acting and seemingly more creativity. Then finally, for the main game modes, we have My Universe mode, where you can take on any superstar, legend, or new, and play weekly matches for specific brands. For this, I went to my go-to and played as Stone Cold Steve Austin, since he's always my ride or die for modes such as this. With all these modes, obviously you've got a huge variety of match types to play as well. Match types ranging from normal, tag team, backstage brawls, Hell in a Cell, Royal Rumble, etc., etc. All of the classics are here for the most part. My only real big gripes out of all of these is that we still don't have the option to play as a special guest referee, which sucks because some of my favorite memories dating back to PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 games were being a total troll and screwing over my friends in their matches after I promised them I wouldn't do anything, I swear. But then they'd bump my character and I'd be like, oh my god, you hit me! And then proceed to hit my finisher on them and let the other character pin them. Ah, good stuff. But yeah, overall the matches are solid. Well, mostly. Hell in a Cell and Steel Cage matches still feel really clunky and jittery overall when attempting to use or climb the cage. 8-person Money in the Bank matches are also pretty wonky due to them taking like an hour or more just for one match, due to wrestlers not staying down long enough to give you the time to climb a ladder and grab the briefcase. It's really, really boring, and this brings me to the inevitable topic, the game's downsides. Uh-oh. Surprisingly, there aren't as many as you were probably thinking. Some are more serious overall, but definitely a far cry away from the problems 2K20 had. Even though I say that, there are still some things that are rearing their ugly heads in this title, such as some of the game's collision detection being off, which causes some moves to hit or miss from absurd distances where you shouldn't get hit from, and even had cases of limbs or objects randomly spazzing out. They weren't often, but when it happens, it's definitely noticeable. Crashing is also an issue with this title, with the game completely crashing to your home screen either while editing matches in My Universe mode, or even during the matches themselves. Being 10 minutes into a fight and then getting an error and crash makes me want to throw Randy Orton through his living room window just like Triple H. On top of these, online matches can also feel like a bit of a chore due to some issues with the netcode I ran across that pop up here and there, which can make some of the matches frustratingly laggy and unplayable. To be fair, it's not every time, but it did happen quite a lot to me. My final gripe has to do with My Faction mode. I find it really underwhelming when compared to everything else, because it feels like it was a last-minute addition. Like if they had a mobile game concept, but added here in this game just to bolster its modes. Feels almost gacha-like. It's not super bad, but it's not great either. It's just there. Extra stuff. When you're done being the most electrifying person in entertainment today, you still have a few things left to do, such as online matches and creation modes. Online mode is pretty straightforward. Hop online with strangers or buddies and show them why you are the king of kings, all while hoping you don't get hit with an RKO out of nowhere and get disconnected from your matches. As stated before, this can be quite an issue when it comes to connection and lag. Feeling as creative as Teddy Long when he put everyone in a match against The Undertaker playa? Then hop into creation mode. This mode this go around is insane. Create your characters, arenas, belts, and even download online creations from others. Some of these characters being real-life wrestlers that aren't in the game, or even from other promotions like AEW and Impact, as well as fictional ones from movies and video games. The amount of creativity I've seen from people is off the charts, and it's largely due to the folks at Visual Concepts making this mode and its future so robust. Overall, at the end of the day, WWE 2K22 exceeded my expectations for it in nearly every possible way. Sure, it's got a lot of issues with collision detection, netcode problems with online, limbs going nuts sometimes, matches like Hell in a Cell and Steel Cage feeling a bit clunky, but with its overhaul to the game's control scheme for better use of your combos and attacks, more crisp and cinematic feeling presentation that makes you feel like you're living the action, improved character models, design and sound, large quantity of game modes that feel fleshed out and more user-friendly, and down to its hard but fair fun factor of each match you take part in that gives you the feeling that you're in a fight for your life, makes WWE 2K22 one of the most fun wrestling games I have played in years. If you're a wrestling fan wanting to scratch that itch, then look no further than this title. So, what's my verdict? What do I think?
It doesn't matter what you think!
Oh, wow, alright. Thanks, Rock. As I was saying, with all this having been said, my verdict is clear. GameNChick says buy now, and that's the bottom line. Hey everyone! Thanks for watching! I really hope you enjoyed that review, and I look forward to bringing more to you in the coming future. For new people, feel free to hit that subscribe button and give this video a like or share, and for people already subscribed, make sure to hit that notification bell so that you do not miss out on any future content upload. Also, feel free to click on my other reviews linked above because they're kinda cool too. So, give them a look. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch all you chickadees on the next one. Queen!